Tiger fans. All right, guys. So I'm kind of glad I waited till today to make the video because when I was up in Michigan, I was going to do a video with my brother after opening day before I came back down to Ohio. And, the video would have probably been a little more positive than today because this week we're going to call this a tale of two kitties. So last week, everyone knows basically how much of a sour taste was left in the fan base's mouth with how the team performed in Tampa, getting swept, nearly no hit by Jeffrey Springs, or he did get no hit by Jeffrey Springs, nearly no hit overall by the Tampa Bay Rays in general. Got two hit. Defense looked horrible. At bats looked horrible. They had 10 strikeouts in 6 innings against Jeffrey Springs. And I came on here last week pretty much saying it was 3 games. Calm down. You have a right to be pissed because we're seeing the same crap that we saw last year. Horrible at bats, inconsistent offense, but it's only 3 games. Settle down. There's a long season. An improvement, even if there's an improvement, it's still not that good because the improvement's only marginal. Well, much can be the same said for this week, but I guess in a little bit of a different fashion. So they go into Houston, and the first game of Houston was probably one of the craziest games of the year. Matt Boyd's on the mound. They give him a quick early 4-0 lead, and then in the 5th or 6th inning, I think it was the 6th inning, it all blew up. Jose Cisneros gets on the mound with a couple of runners that Matt Boyd had left on the bases, and it was 4-1, and Yordan Alvarez promptly ties it, and it's 4-4. Riley Green hits an opposite field tank, 420-foot tank opposite field shot, gives the Tigers a 5-4 lead. The Tigers defense this game could not turn double plays, and I don't know what it is. Last year, the Tigers were one of the most efficient teams in the entire MLB at turning double plays, and a lot of that had to do with Jonathan Scope was consistently playing second. As ass as he is overall, was one of the better defenders in the league last year at second base, and with him and Baez both having strong arms, although Baez has no idea where the ball is going 80% of the time. A lot of double plays were turned. They were very high for efficiency rate at turning double plays. This play, Alex Lane comes out, gets 2 outs. Bregman's on first base. Torkelson hits Bregman. And then Jose Abreu comes up and hits a double on his front foot out in the left field. And Austin Meadows, and we're going to touch on him. Austin Meadows didn't get a really good jump on it at the wall. He leaps up and it hits off his glove. They tie it. Well, Matt Vierling, who really broke out in the Astros series, hits a 2-run shot to dead center field, and it carried and carried and carried. It didn't look like it was going to get out, but it did. It cleared the wall out in center. It was a poke, and it was an absolute moonshot. And the Tigers win that game. Game 2 was actually a really good game. It was low scoring, but the highlight of the game was Spencer Torkelson hit a 424-foot shot to put the Tigers up late in that game by a decent margin, and they win that game without any extra inning antics. So they're going into the last game of the series looking to sweep. And I'm thinking, wow, their at-bats the first 2 games of the series were way better. They were drawing walks, the strikeouts were down. They were actually showing power, quite a bit of extra base power too. Some of these guys that did nothing in the Tampa series was looking better, like Vierling and whatnot. And Green hits a home run, and Torkelson hits a home run. And we're thinking, okay, well, the Scott Harris effect. Here we go. These are the guys he got, and these are the guys they're leading on, and the at-bats are looking better. Well, they lose the last game of the series. Christian Javier is Christian Javier, and he does Christian Javier things, and you don't expect the Tigers to sweep Houston, even an injured Houston, in Houston. And, they leave with 2 of 3. They're almost 500. They're going home, and, you're thinking, hell yeah. So now enter in opening day. I'm down there with some friends and my brother. Weather's good. We're thinking, okay, Boston just got swept by Pittsburgh. The Tigers have, some momentum coming on, taking a tough series in Houston. And what happens? First off, Rafael Devers, who's a tank, single-handedly destroyed the Tigers this series. Just murdered them. Hits a home run. Spencer Turnbull is good for the first 2 innings. In the 3rd inning, he just loses his command. He's shaky as hell for the next 2 innings. Lots of base runners. He gets hit in the back of the neck, and all of a sudden his velocity dropped from 95 to 89. Clearly he was in some pain. And then Jose Cisnero comes out and gives up a 3-run home run. And that's pretty much ball game. You know, the Tigers had some few walks in this. They had Chris Sale on the ropes right from the rip. Chris Sale walked the first 2 hitters of the game. They did nothing with that opportunity. Jake Rogers gets them out early with a 2-run shot. They answer back when Boston answers back. But, you know, Turnbull couldn't throw clean innings up there after the Tigers got him runs. And it was basically a precursor to what was going to be the entire series. Again, what did we see? The Tigers come home for 3 games, and it looks basically identical to the Tampa Bay series. Shitty defense, shitty pitching, and pitchers' inabilities to get shutdown innings after the Tigers get runs. The offense looking stagnant. Get traffic on the base paths against pitchers, and they can't cash in on runners a scoring opportunity. The amount of left on base was absolutely pitiful. The defense was pitiful. Like today, Baez makes a throwing error on a ball he had all day to throw Rob Roughschneider out at first base, and ends up screwing him. The second game, holy shit! The second game, it was fucking 6-0 in the second inning. Joey Wentz doesn't even survive 2 after going 1-2-3 in the first inning of that game because of 4 fucking walks. And what does Rafael Devers do? Promptly hits a grand slam opposite field, and the game was done. And I don't know about you guys, I love Dan Dickerson. I think Dan Dickerson is absolutely one of the best radio broadcasters in all of baseball. But I am so sick of this guy trying to sugarcoat what tastes like shit. And that is the Tigers. If I have to hear this guy talk about, because I can't listen to Matt Shepard. Matt Shepard is the worst broadcaster there is. He's so boring. He's so fake. The guy pukes all over himself. He can't call ball games. So I listen to Dan and Jim, except now on the roads it's Bobby Scales and Dan Dickerson. But if I have to listen to Dan Dickerson one more time, try to sit here and sugarcoat and feed me bullshit that this is a new Scott Harris regime. They got these players. You know, we've seen what we've seen the last 5 years over the first few series. Lots of strikeouts, not enough walks, inconsistent offense, but it's going to take some time. This is a Scott Harris. Listen, fuck that. These guys suck right now. It's early, and I still want to hammer home this fact that it's early. But Jesus Christ. At this point last year, the Tigers were 6-7 when Miggy had hit that 3,000 hit, and that was pretty much the end of the season. Legitimately, the Tigers were done after they were 6-7. Was at 13 games of the season. Because after that 13th game, when they played the doubleheader against Colorado, they ended up going and finished only one. They won 3 more games, and they were 9-27 at one point, and their season was over with. And it was early May. And then they played horrible the rest of the year. You know, they only had a couple weeks. Now, they're only in 1-2 games. They've been swept twice. They look like they just got off the plane yesterday in October of last year, and it's the same fucking guys out there, 1-9, swinging. The team looks just as bad. I don't know how I thought these guys were going to win 75 games. I literally do not see. I guess I had the Homer glasses on, a little bit of rose-colored glasses on these things. I need to wipe them off with a cloth. I do not see how I thought that this team was going to improve by 10 games this year with the shit they have on there. Baez isn't even batting 100. He's batting under bingo numbers. He's below the Mendoza line. He's in fucking bingo number range right now. That's how bad he is. His on base has a 1 in front of it. The only time Baez was doing good so far this season was when he got his first hit of the year in Tampa when he was batting 1,000. Since then, he's gotten 3 more hits. And they're in their 3rd series. That's how bad he's been. Jonathan Scope, he can't find water if he fell out of he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Nick Maton is off to a horribly slow start. Austin Meadows is now hurt. But not physically hurt, he's mentally hurt. And I'm not going to come on here and cause a debate about mental illness and mental awareness. Listen, I get it. My life wasn't easy growing up all the time. You know, I lost my dad young, and it was me and my brother from the time I was 21 and he was 18, and him and I had to go through a lot of things. I had my battles with mental health and stuff like that. I still went to work every day, and I handled it, and, you know, Everyone's different. Everyone handles mental problems differently and all this other shit. But for 100 and something years, people were going through problems. And for 100 and something years, guys played every single day. Now we have a guy that can't even stay on the field because his brain is messed up. He's not even hurt physically. He's hurt mentally. And I guess this was something that was going on in Tampa. And it goes to show you how ruthless of an organization Tampa is. They fucking traded him because they thought he was going to be a head case, and they seen it for a forthcoming writing on the wall. Like I said, I'm not trying to shit on him. Listen, everyone handles mental stress and whatever he's got going on. He just had a kid with his wife and everything else. Whatever he's got going on, it's got to be serious enough to where he's now missing time. And it's not even because he's physically hurt. He mentally can't handle it. So now I don't even know if Austin Meadows is going to have a career. Because this is like some shit where he has had legitimately since August of last year, early September, to get his shit straight, to get ready physically. He comes into camp, says he's a lot better, all this stuff. He plays a complete spring training. And now they're not even 10 games into the season, and he's gone. And this is one of those kind of things that's like, is it going to be okay after 10 days? Is it enough time to go home with your personal life and handle what he needs to handle that's bothering him? If the problem is that serious where he's missing time for at least 10 days, how's it going to get solved in 10 days if it's an issue that now it's been 2 seasons worth of things? Because last year when he was hurt, when he pop both of his Achilles, he had come out and talked about it. Now he played spring in only not even 10 games and he's done. So who's to say he only misses 10 games? If a problem is that serious and it's bothering him that much, how is taking a week and a couple days off going to be like, okay? I took 4 days off of work this week because of 2 days off of work, but the weekends I have off to go up to opening day. I don't want to go to work tomorrow morning, but I'm going to be there. But if I was going through some shit, would I be cool after 4 days? Probably fucking not. So, which leads me to the point of, if he keeps missing all this time, say he's got 2 IL stints, and then he's gone for 20 days. Then he needs to go down for a rehab assignment for a week. And then he's gone a month. Which then hurts the team because they need his bat. This is a guy that's a former All-Star that's hit 20 home runs multiple times. And they don't have his bat now. So who knows if his career is ever coming back. Baez can't hit. Miguel Cabrera's a shell of himself. Gary Carpenter's had a couple okay hits. Green and Torkelson, have shown flashes of improvements. The pitching is horrible. The bullpen's horrible. They don't have a starter in this rotation that I believe in right now. And Michael Lorenzen got shelled his last start down in Toledo, and supposedly his next start's probably going to be up in Detroit. They're 3 series in. They've been swept twice. I want to genuinely believe this team is going to improve this year because they were so bad last year and their offense was historically that bad that it's almost impossible to repeat it again. But they're not giving us any kind of faith or any kind of improvement to say that they won't repeat it again. When you still have Jonathan Scope on your roster, that shows you, that, and he's getting at bats still. He's done. He can't hit. He's terrible. And now Baez, you needed him to be good to opt out, and he's not even hitting 100. And then these guys you traded for, Vierling, like I said, he was good in Houston. He was okay at home. Maton is yet to hit. Now you don't have Meadows. Eric Haas is lost, completely lost up there. The only nice thing that I've seen and only positive I can see about this roster right now is with the players that Scott Harris has constructed on this team. It was a perfect example on opening day where they had a lefty, so they went and they loaded the lineup with a bunch of righties, and Hinch was really able to mix and match with his lefties off the bench like Meadows and Carpenter and Maton. He was able to squeak them in there. So the versatility is good, and Verlaine was able to play third, and Maton was able to play second. So, the versatility is there, and that's cool. I mean, you can see the pieces and what they're trying to do. I mean, the attempt is good, but, the result is horrible. basically is what it's been so far. I mean, you can see what they want to do, and you can see what they're trying to do. I mean, these guys, some of their we've seen plate appearances and stretches of time for a bat to bat that you can kind of see, like a little crack in the door of light, you know, that the vision of the overall team, but the results are just not there. And 3 series in, I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm not trying to put the panic button on, and it's still early. And this team, like I said, needed to have no expectations because they're a team that shouldn't have any expectations because they're not a good team. And even if they do exceed 65 wins and they're in the 70s, like say even the low 70s, that's not a good team. That's not a good season, and that's a marginal improvement on something. You go from smelling like shit to smelling like crap. Basically, you put a little bit of Axe deodorant on it. But wow, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do this upcoming week because they go to Toronto for a couple games and before they come back home. And that team, with how bad the pitching is and how much power is in their lineup, and their pitching's a lot better than the Tigers. I know Jose Barrios is still inconsistent, and they still got Kevin Gausman and Alex Manoah. So they have some guys in there, and their bullpen is not bad at all. But that lineup is deep, and the Tigers' offense and the Tigers' pitching staff is really bad. It's gonna take, like I said in my last video about this, and Dan Dickerson reiterated the same point I actually made in my video last week, that the first half of 21, the bullpen was really bad, and Hinch really figured out where he could pick and choose certain guys and put certain guys to, really put them in proper leverage spots. And then last year they were a top 6 pen in the league. I don't know if they have potential to be a top 6 pen in the league this year, but I still think they could be. Hinch is really good at that, and I think it's going to take some time. I think they're going to take such a beating in the pitching department for at least the first couple months of the season before they kind of figure out who's going to be whether that's going to be bringing guys up from the minor leagues to fill in certain spots that they feel is going to do better because they're going to cut some of these bums that should be cut already, like Jonathan Scope and whatnot. And like Akil Baddoo's up in the big leagues now. I'm so tired of being fed the propaganda that this guy he's electric and he's exciting and he does this on the base pass. He doesn't get on base. He doesn't hit consistently. He hits spring training home runs, and that's it. He was a flash in the pan in 21. We've seen this before. Quentin Berry, Matt Tuiasosopo, Nico Goodrum. There's been plenty of guys like him. Plenty of guys like him I've seen come through. Brennan Bosch. I've seen this story before. I have nothing against Akil Baddoo. And I'd rather have him be good, than be bad, because I'm tired of seeing this shit product on the field. But I'm tired of being fed the propaganda that he's the answer and he makes the Tigers better. If he did, then he wouldn't have started at fucking AAA to start the year. And Kerry Carpenter wouldn't have been on the opening day roster versus Akil Baddoo. And the only reason why he's up here is because Austin Meadows is you don't know if he's ever coming back. Plain and simple. And I think it's just a matter of time, that the Tigers, if they're serious about putting a better product on the field, and they're serious about taking a step forward, and they're serious about implementing this philosophy, they're only going to put up with so much bullshit for so long. Because this first month of the season, you can't do anything drastic because they have to let it play out. They have to see what there is. You can't make decisions after 8 games. Us as fans, we want to see shit after 5 games. You know what I'm saying? A couple of bats. I get it. I'm not like that. I'm not so knee-jerk. Guys who I'm tough on is guys who have had an extended track record of multiple months and hundreds of at-bats where they've been really bad, like Akil Baddoo and Jonathan Scope, or even Tucker Barnhart last year. I'm not a guy to be a knee-jerk reaction kind of guy right away. And I understand that you bring up these guys from the minor leagues. They're not a guaranteed success to carry your team because it's not usually the case. Like we have 2 prime examples with Torkelson and Green. They're 1-1s and a 1-5. And right now, they're still trying to find their footing in the big leagues. But, Justin Henry Malloy's off to a super hot start. Guy's already got 10 walks. His eye is still carrying over in AAA at a higher level. And he's still getting on base. His contact skills are improving. Parker Meadows has done nothing but continue to hit. So, you got these guys down there that I think if Scott Harris is dead serious about moving this roster along and about actually showing that there's going to be progress in another rebuild, even though they're not calling it a rebuild, they're going to have to cut some dead weight. They're going to have to make some tough decisions, and they're going to have to put some guys in place, regardless of experience level. It's more about, at this point in time, experience should not mean shit. And they shouldn't be playing guys just based off of veteran status. They need to put guys in this roster, and this is the whole reason why Al Avila was a dog shit GM and why the roster is as bad as it is. If you are going to implement a philosophy and you're going to implement a certain way how you want your team to act, perform, and go after, if you have a guy that is blatantly misfits this identity for how you want your team to be, you can't just plug that guy in there and expect him to all of a sudden turn it around. Javier Baez is the perfect example. You're running a team that you want guys to control both sides of the strike zone. If you got pitchers that don't throw strikes and guys who swing at sliders off the plate in the left-handed batter's box, they don't fit your fucking team. They don't fit your philosophy, and the progress never moves forward. Flat out, plain and simple. Now, if you have guys in the minor leagues, even if they come up and struggle, but their plate appearances are good, and they're drawing walks, and their contact may be inconsistent, but they're giving you better at-bats, and they're learning on the job, but they actually fit what your viewpoint and philosophy of the team is, that's progress. Because you cut the dead weight that doesn't fit your team and fit your identity off of it. It's like running a defense in the NFL. You know, if you got a guy that's a 4-3 lineman and you put him in a 3-4, you know, he probably ain't going to be good for your team because you don't fit your defensive philosophy. You know, that's why they draft certain players and draft certain guys, because they fit what they're trying to do. You know, whatever their kind of defense they're going to try to be. So it's three series in, and it's been a shit show. And like I said, it's 3 series, and it's early. But they were 9-27 at one point last year, and they were 9-23 at some point the year before that. But they really pulled out of it in May, and they had showed a lot of progress, which is why 22 was such a massive failure. And right now, 23 is looking pretty much carbon copy of 22, but the defense is sloppier. They don't have a lockdown bullpen. The starters have nothing to offer. It's been horrible. They're literally the worst. They're one of the worst offensive teams so far. They're one of the worst defensive teams so far, and they have the worst run differential in the entire MLB. 3 series. Can't stress that enough, but I so far I don't know how they're gonna win 75 games. So that's all I got for you guys today. And hopefully next week we have some positives to talk about. You know, the at-bats look more like Houston, and the offense looks a little bit better. I don't know so far, guys. That's all I got for you guys today. Go Tigers.